Now we're going to introduce Jason Welch, who's going to lead us in the Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights as we focus on these vital documents that are our birthright. Jason Welch.
Thank you, all my fans out there. I'm the one guy on the agenda that everyone said, who is that Jason Welch guy? And I'm not running for anything, so I see that as a resume boost for myself. But I'm not leading you in the Declaration of Independence and Bill of Rights. I have a little speech that they asked me to talk about the Constitution, our natural rights, and how they apply in our current situation. I was asked also to do a little introduction to myself, just a brief background because I have limited time here. I'm originally from Utah, spent 2 years in Panama on a religious mission, spent 10 years as an Army reservist. I'm married, I've been married for 11 years to a beautiful wife up in front here, and I have 5 children. And we only brought one of them, so it's not like crazy. Like you would know if they were here. My background, and I think why they asked me to speak, I'm a political science major, but I learned very little going to school, going into college about the Constitution, Declaration of Independence. You'd think going through and taking political science courses, that's a background you'd think you'd get. It's actually been since I graduated from college that I've made a self-study. I've actually gone back to original documents. I've learned about the Constitution. I've learned about the debates that were going on back in the Founders' Day so that I could understand what their intent was. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that today. When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, to assume among the powers of the earth this separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and nature's God entitle them. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light or transient causes, and accordingly all experience has shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under total despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. This Declaration of Independence is a declaration of principles, American principles, principles of freedom and liberty. Each of us has self-evident natural rights endowed by our Creator, not by any government body. Our founding fathers believed that these rights were so obvious as to state this in the Declaration. No government has the authority to take these rights away from any individual citizen. It is to secure these rights that we, the people, set up governments, and it is the protection of these rights that is their primary duty. It is for this reason that our founding fathers wrote the U.S. Constitution. The Declaration is a statement of our principles that we believe in, and the Constitution is a framework that they devised to chain down the central governing body to a very specific set of responsibilities that are outlined in the Constitution. Our governments at all levels, in both parties, are failing their responsibility to protect our natural rights. I highly doubt that the majority of them could even define what a natural right is, or even acknowledge that there are natural rights that exist outside of their authority. This is something that was common knowledge in our founders' day, and it was always discussed. They were in bars, they were out in the streets, they would discuss natural rights. We need to, as citizens, educate ourselves in these basic principles of natural rights and be able to demand these rights to be protected by those we place in trust, whose job, whose primary responsibility is to protect those rights. It is our right, it is even our duty to throw off such government that is a poor steward of our rights and provide new guards for our future security. We the people need to demand that the constitutional government established by our founders be restored. 3 separate and equal branches of government to hold checks on each other. All branches should be required to uphold the Constitution and primarily focus on protecting our natural rights. We need a legislature that will fulfill its responsibility to actually put forth legislation that was generated within the body of the legislature, and that everybody that votes on a piece of legislation should be required to read it and understand it before they vote on it. They should be able to point to the part of the Constitution that the legislation being passed indicates would be a part of their responsibility. We need an executive branch that is restricted to its specific enumerated powers. We should expect that the executive branch would not dabble in legislation through executive order as if he were king, which presidents have done for the last 100 years, and it's been increasingly so in the last several. Groups of bureaucrats in executive departments, such as the EPA, the IRS, should not have the ability to pass sweeping regulation on their own perceived authority because they have none. They were not elected, and we the people must demand action taken against anyone who asserts authority where a Constitution does not grant it. If any branch of government should know and understand everything about natural rights and be the primary guardian of those rights, it is the judiciary. We must demand of judicial nominees a stated understanding and commitment to uphold the self-evident, unalienable rights of each individual citizen. We must demand that the nominees acknowledge the blindness of justice, that there is no race, color, religion, or class considerations when it comes to the law. We expect of them that their primary consideration when deciding cases in the United States should be the U.S. Constitution, which is the ultimate law of the land and the document they are sworn to uphold. The original intent of the Constitution was to have a document that would expressly state the responsibility of each branch of government and exactly what the federal government's role would be. There was a divide as to whether they should include a Bill of Rights as part of the Constitution. Alexander Hamilton wrote in the Federalist Papers about why many did not want to include a Bill of Rights in the Constitution. He said about the Bill of Rights, "Here in strictness, the people surrender nothing, and as they retain everything, they have no need of a particular reservation." And he continues, "I go further and affirm that bills of rights, in the sense and in the extent in which they are contended for, are not only unnecessary in the proposed Constitution, but would even be dangerous. They would contain various exceptions to powers which are not granted, and on this very account would afford a colorable pretext to claim more than were granted. For why declare that things shall not be done which there is no power to do?" Thomas Jefferson also spoke about binding down in the chains of the Constitution those who would attempt to rule over us. Of course, in the end, they did include a Bill of Rights, and it includes a list of protections for our natural rights. Protections for the self-evident right that we all have to believe what we want, to worship how we see fit, to speak our mind without fear of any government intrusion, to write and publish our thoughts and ideas. The language used in the First Amendment, "The Congress shall make no law." Is the legislature, is our government currently upholding that part of the Constitution? It protects our rights to self-defense. which is another self-evident right. Of course we have a right to protect ourselves, our family, our property. They guarantee our right to keep and bear arms with a language that is, "This right shall not be infringed." It protects our right to keep the government off our property, protect us from searches and seizures, confiscation of our property, our right to a speedy trial by jury, to know the charges against us and to confront the accuser. The final two amendments in the Bill of Rights reiterates what Hamilton and Jefferson said. It says, "The enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage any other rights retained by the people. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people." Even the most ardent supporters of a strong central government in the time of the founders, which Alexander Hamilton was, feared the tyranny that easily comes when power is given to a central government. All we have to do is read their words. We don't have to guess at what their intent was. I encourage everybody to pick up a copy of the Federalist Papers and the Anti-Federalist Papers to see the debate that they were having at the time of the founding and the writing of the Constitution. We don't have to guess and make it up as we go. You can just read it right there. Read the Declaration of Independence, read the Constitution. It is hard to misinterpret what their intention was when they wrote it. I believe personally that the Constitution is an inspired and sacred document. I believe that God had a hand in the building of this great nation, and that as we follow him, we will be prosperous in the land. The further we as a people stray from his teachings, the less prosperous we become as a country. The economic bankruptcy we are currently experiencing in our country is a direct result of straying from these basic principles of righteousness. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not bear false witness. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not covet. Thou shalt not commit adultery. We as a people must commit to living more righteous lives and demand that the corrupt politicians infecting all levels of government that generally represent the antithesis of righteousness be held accountable for the manner in which they live. I'm tired of voting for the lesser of two evils. And I've made a personal commitment to not do so any longer. Evil is evil, and a vote for it leads me further down a path that I'm no longer willing to go. I no longer care whether they have an R, a D, or an L after their names. Say what you mean what you say. Don't give me your resume. Don't tell me I should vote for you because you're not the other person. Tell me what you believe and how it will influence the way that you vote. And I will decide based upon your honest answer. We the people have seen in recent history, as we have sought to influence what our government does, we're scoffed at. We're belittled. We're told we don't understand. We're called derogatory names to imply stupidness. We're called racists, bigots, in order to marginalize our message. We're told that we cling to our gods and our gun. Well, you're damn right. We trust in our God to support us in our righteous cause, and we will defend our sacred rights given to us by God, even if it must be by gun. In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A government whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of free people. We therefore, the people of the United States, assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for rectitude in our intentions, do in the name and by the authority of the good people of this state and of our country, solemnly publish and declare that we are and of a right ought to be a free and independent people. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protections of divine providence, let's mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. Thank you.